Kelsey, get in there.
Yeah.
Wait, get out. Stop it. Face off right over here. All right. Yeah.
Blakey.
Jeff, don't block out the goal. Don't block out your goal. It's not facing out and have the knees back to your side. Come on, Blake, get ready. Come on, don't just stand there. Go, Jeff. Up the board. Up the board. Go, Kelsey, go. Come on, look at Jacob. Look at Jacob. Up. Move up for a shot, Jeff. Move up for a shot. Okay, stay there, guys. Jeff's got it. Watch your team. Watch your team. Look at Lauren.
When
kind. And now I think we have some legitimate talent. I believe Caitlin Brown is ready to perform a dance number for us, or will be as soon as the curtain is closed.
Entrance to the Plastic Surgery Center, and this is the outside plaza entrance to the center. And as I move over this way, the steps you see there go up, and we're now facing west, and the steps go up to Genesee Avenue. Now inside the foyer of the building, and I'm pointing now down to the inside entrance of the Plastic Surgery Center, and back this other way is the entrance to our business area, which we will explore first. The office, which is separated, as you noted before. This room was originally to be used for a board meeting room where we could sit at a table and discuss things that were necessary in the business. Right now, as you can see, it's not being used for that. It's an area for storage for machinery, the main computer, and a bunch of junk. Over here is the insurance area, which is on computer, and then over to the right of that is the dictation center, transcription, and then down the hall here is the bookkeeper's office. And off to my right of the hallway here is an extra room where we have files, storage of stationery and other supplies, office supplies, and we have two stations here that can be used for personnel for whatever. We've not used these in the past because we have not had the sufficient need, but this is an area where two desk spaces can be expanded. Then this is the bookkeeper section here, where all the bookkeeping is done. And then this is the back out to the entrance into the foyer right here. Back into the foyer, and straight ahead from the patio entrance is the entrance that goes directly into the underground directly from the car into the center. To the parking lot, and you'll notice here that there's another entrance to the Plastic Surgery Center, and this is the back entrance where post-operative patients come, and also where the where the patients come the morning of surgery. This would be their entrance into the building. Foyer also are restrooms, men's and ladies' restrooms, so that we do not have to provide restrooms in the office proper. Since we'll go into the main entrance from the foyer into the center here, and as we go in, you'll notice we come right up to the window where the receptionist sits, and the current charts are available. I'll give you a little panorama view of this area here. This is a very nice waiting room. It's very large. It's decorated with contemporary as well as period furnishings and deco decorations as well. Right now I'm walking and turning my back to the main entrance off the patio and giving a little pan through here. Over on the other side we have other waiting areas that are somewhat separated, giving a really nice amount of privacy. And over here to the left is a nice, beautiful little alcove with some oriental type furnishings. And windows all the way around this so that we have plenty of outside light, and a beautiful patio that's adjacent to this waiting room. In the waiting room now and looking into the hallway where the patients would be brought, and they come into this hallway and would go into one of 5 examining rooms, and I'll turn into room number 1 as a giving an idea of what these rooms look like. They're all decorated very nicely, all have wallpaper, a dental type examining chair, a cabinet with all of the necessary things that we might need in here. And then this waiting room also has a nice window out onto the patio. There are 3 rooms off the patio that are just like this. They're almost identical except the decorating and the wallpaper are a little different. To the right off of the hallway are 2 examining rooms that are also quite light because of the glass block walls that they have, although they're not on an outside patio. They're still very nice and all of these 5 rooms are set up identical so that the supplies and all are in the same drawers in each room, and everything is the same so as not to be confusing. Also, each one of these 5 rooms off of this hall have glass block which emits light from the hallway and gives a very nice effect. This room this gives you an idea of the flow. Back off of the entry from the waiting room and into the receptionist's office. This room has a window that goes into the main waiting room, and on the other side a window that goes into the post-operative waiting room where we keep patients with bandages and so on in a separate waiting room. A lot of glass block is used in here, which gives a nice effect and makes things very compact so that the receptionist can catch both areas. And there are computers in this area as well. Standing in the post-operative waiting room and showing the door in the hallway that comes in from the garage. I'll turn around here and there's some Indian decorations in here and airport type seating, and this is the receptionist's office I'm looking at now, and then the patients come from here through this door and down this hallway into either the operating room or the operating area for the post-operative care. And as I come down this hall, I'll turn right into a room that is our makeup room. And in here we have a hair sink where we used to do the patient's hair on the 3rd day after surgery. This is mirrored on both sides. This is where we had our makeup lady and where we did all our makeup consults. And this is a very nice little room that's being used temporarily now by a doctor who's here temporarily. The next door down this hallway on the right is a bathroom, which is with a closet that's we use for the employees mostly, but occasionally patients are allowed to use this bathroom facility. Then I'm turning now and coming on down the hall toward the operating room, and off to the right here is another room that is used for patients to change their clothes into their surgical gowns, and we have cubby holes in a closet here for their personal things, and there's also a sink here, and this is the room that we also use to discharge patients. And I'll walk over here and open this door, and you see that this opens exactly onto the curb of the parking garage, so that the cars are brought right to the curb, right to the door, and the patient does not have to go any distance at all to be placed in the car and taken home, which is very private and very clean. Walking into the operating room itself, this is an unusual setup. As we are looking at this point, you're seeing a chair and a console and sink in the center, and another chair. These chairs are used for minor procedures and for post-operative suture removal and dressing changes. When these chairs are elevated and tipped back, then we use the counter for the sterile operating setups, and we have a scrub sink there handy for the surgeon as well. I'm turning around the other way now, and you'll see the computer center. This is where prescriptions are written, appointments are made as the patient leaves the for post-operative care, or the as they leave this area, then they're given appointments can be made in this area as well as in the front for return visits. I'm giving you a panoramic view of the operating room itself. We have beginning here and going back around a semicircle, 5 operating tables, all in the same room basically, but you'll notice that there are screens on ceiling tracks so that each one of these can be turned into a separate cubicle, and in that sense can be made into separate little operating rooms. Once the patient is asleep or placed under sedation, then the screens can be pulled back out of the way so that the operating personnel and the anesthesiologist can monitor a number of people at the same time. You'll notice that these have, I'll walk over to number 3 here, which is typical. And this table, 4 of these tables have pedestals where all the monitors are set up, and the cords run down through the pedestal, and so that we don't have any cords or very few cords dangling around the floor, which helps in the cleanliness. Also there is a Mayo stand on a flexible arms that we use for all of the facial procedures, facelifts, noses, and eyes, and so on and so forth, so that we will load these Mayo stands from a back table. That way we can prepare a back table and maybe do 4 or 5 operations off a sterile back table by loading up the Mayo stands. That way we save a tremendous amount of expense and makes everything very mobile and very efficient. The lights are double lights so that we have good illumination for our surgeries. In each one of these areas there are spaced gas outlets and suction from the ceiling, so that all of those conveniences are handy. We can also use an anesthesia machine at any one of these places because they're tapped into the ceiling hoses for the gases and the oxygen. Also, the fat suctioning is in this group of ceiling drops as well, and you see an electrical outlet for the suction so that a foot pedal can be used for suctioning. Our suction pump is remote so that we get up a big strong pressure, but we have no noise because the pump itself is out in the mechanical area outside of the building. To the foot end of all of these operating cubicles is an opening that you see here, and I'll move this screen forward, and through these openings we're able to bring a gurney in next to the operating room and transfer the patient to the gurney, and then the gurneys are used for the recovery room beds as well. And these are adjustable so that we can position patients in any way that we desire. These cubicles in the recovery room have curtains, and we have the capacity for 8 recovery beds back in this area. You see some things stored back here now because we don't use a lot of the recovery area. But this is the recovery area, and it's quite large, as I say, with 8 cubicles. And each one of these cubicles has its own suction and gas outlet or oxygen outlets should we need those. We have the plug-in bottles and also a call button there for the patient. And on the back wall we have our control unit for our oxygen bottles and alarms and all of that sort of thing. You have pan vision of down the back side of this operating room, and this is all the recovery area there. Now in the center here we have a console, and all of our emergency equipment, defibrillator and all of that equipment is here, where it's in the center and accessible to all the areas. In between the operating room and the recovery room, you'll see that we have a series of windows with blinds, and so that we have good visualization from the operating room into the recovery area. Should we have people in the recovery area, we're able to pull those blinds open, and so that we have full vision of the recovery room as well as full vision of all of the patients in the operating room itself. Notice the screens here on the tracks, and this is a third post-op chair or minor chair that elevates and tips back, and we have the table with the supplies in just like the other two, so that everything is exactly the same on all 3 of these tables. And also these can be divided off and privatized by sliding the screens wherever we might like to have. The main scrub sink, and this is the cleanup area. So we have storage cabinets, electronics, where we wash all our instruments. Then they go in the sink to the right where they dry, and then they're packaged on that counter there. And I'm going to come back over at this other position, and this is the third post-operative work area, and it's similar to the others. When the table is elevated and tipped back, we have a console here where the instruments go. The drawers and all the supplies are set up exactly as they are in the other 2 areas. And it's interesting to note on these chairs we have a single light, and the screens again on sliding tracks, so that any one of these cubicles can be privatized for the patient if we should need that in the post-operative care. Now I'm standing back of the operating room here, and I'm going to swing over to the right, and I'm standing in the semi-hallway. I say semi because on the right is a wall, and on the left is a short wall which divides these cubicles. Now I'm looking right straight down the hall toward the exam rooms and clear to the end of the hall into the main waiting room, so that we have a clear one-shot hallway all the way through here. Now on my right are the doctor's offices. They're relatively small. I'm going to go into my office. Excuse the clutter. These offices are 10 feet by 10 feet. They're not big, but they're very nice, and each of those has a nice big window that looks onto the beautiful patio. And each of the doctors have their offices here. This happens to be mine. And this is nice because the convenience of having the doctor's office right adjacent to the operating room makes it nice, because you can finish a surgery, or if you want to make a note after seeing post-operative patients, then you can slip into your office, do your dictation, and everything is close, in close proximity to the operating room. Now I'm going to swing around and look on down this hallway. Now the doctor's offices are on the left. Mine is, we've just passed. This is the second doctor's office here. They all have shades that can be pulled so the sunshine doesn't get too warm. I'm walking on down. This would be office number 3 here. This is Dr. Edelson's office. And then we come on down here and we have a 4th doctor's office here, all next to one another and all right adjacent to the operating room where it's convenient. This is our manager's office here, or would serve as for a 5th doctor if we had need. We have one other office that's occupied by a tenant right now that is moving right away. This was Jim's office, or the manager's office, and then his office presently would serve as the anesthesiologist's office, or perhaps a 5th doctor, or if we had a resident or a person of that type could use this office. Now I'm going to swing right back around. I'm looking over the autoclaves now and back into the operating room. And we do have one operating room that is semi-enclosed, making 6. And we use this for more private cases, augmentations, and so on and so forth. And you'll notice that we have our anesthesia machine in here, and this operating room is, as I say, a little bit more private, and you'll notice it does not have the pedestal that the Mayo stands on. And this is where we do cases where we need to be unobstructed. We'll do mammoplasties, abdominal work, and so on, where we need the open table. Now I'm going to swing around to this next operating room, or this next semi-operating cubicle. This table also does not have the pedestal, so we have 2 operating tables without the pedestal, so that we can have freedom for suctioning cases and those cases where the pedestal and the Mayo stands would be obstructive to our work. So that about takes care of the
supply room.
The office, with one exception. I'm going back into the recovery area. This last recovery area now we use mostly for storage for anesthesia machines and other things. We have one other area here which is a little bit cluttered right now with boxes, but this is our supply room. And again, this door leads to the garage, so that those people that come and restock our shelves don't have to come through the office. They just come right into the garage, right into this door, and they stock all of our materials and all of our supplies. And these are all set up on a computer inventory, so that whenever we need anything, the supplier comes and replenishes exactly what we need. And they have all of the numbers of everything that we use, and it's all stored right here. It's not real big, but it doesn't need to be, and we have everything here and always up-to-date, supplied with everything that we use here. And I think that'll probably bring us to a close. This is our music machine. We have pipe music all through the place, and this is looking down the hallway of the recovery room on down, further on down into where the patients change their clothes, and on past that into the post-operative recovery room. I think that pretty well gives it in a nutshell. When you get here,